we will learn today how representing the outcomes in a certain way will help you very much to get the probabilities of certain outcomes. Okay. And a very good way to do that is to start with an example to see what is happening and how to get all the possible probabilities. So let's take a fair dice, and we know that if you throw a fair dice, there are 6 equally likely outcomes because a dice is a cube and it has 6 faces. And if I will put numbers on each face, it will be from 1 to 6. So whenever I'm throwing a dice, I can get 1, or I can get 2, or I can get till 6. So I have 6 possible outcomes. Now, if I will spin a coin or flip a coin, I can get 2 possible outcomes, heads or tails. Okay, so I have 2 possible outcomes. They are equally likely to happen outcomes. And yeah, since nothing is special about having heads or tail, the 2 faces are similar. Okay. Now imagine I'm throwing the coin and the dice at the same time, right? So I know that I will have 12 possible outcomes if I'm checking what I got from the dice and what I got from the coin. Okay, since from the dice I have 6, from the coin I have 2, so 2 times 6 is equal to 12. Well, those are all the outcomes that I can have. So for heads, I can have from 1 to 6. This is why I wrote it like that. And for each tail, I have from 1 to 6 that I can get from the dice. Okay. Well, this is a way to represent the outcomes. But a better way to present all the possible outcomes is what we call a simple space diagram. So a simple space diagram is something like that. So you put on the 2 axes the 2 possible outcomes for each event. So for throwing, for example, a coin or flipping a coin, I have heads and tail. So on this side or on this axe, I put heads and tail. And for this axe, I put all the possible outcomes for throwing a dice. So from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. Each plus sign represents a possible outcome. So for this plus, for example, this outcome is heads and having 1 on the dice. This one, for example, having tails on the coin and 1 on the dice. This one, for example, having heads on the coin and having 4 on the dice. So this is how you read it, and all these outcomes, all these 12 outcomes are equally likely, so they can happen with the same probability. This is what it means, right? So to find, for example, a certain probability of a particular outcome, I need to look for all the possible ways achieving it. Let's take an example to understand it. So for example, if I would like to get the probability of getting a head and an even number, so this line will give you all the possible outcomes with head, and the columns will give you the possible outcomes with getting an even number or a certain number. So this outcome is having head with the number 1. 1 is not uneven, so I'm not considering that. But having head and 2, yeah, it verifies the criteria of this outcome. Having head and 4, yeah, since 4 is an even number. Having head and 6 is a possible outcome. So all these 3 outcomes are possible outcomes, so I need to count them. So among the 12 possible outcomes, I have 3 outcomes that are achieving what I'm looking for. So to get the probability of scoring a head and an even number, it will be 3 over 12. So 3 possible outcomes over 12, the total possible outcomes that I have. 3 outcomes that verify the criteria that I'm considering the event, divided by the number of the total number of possible outcomes. Okay, the total possible outcomes in this experiment. So I can simplify it since it's a fraction, so it will be 1 over 4, since I can divide 3 by 3 and 12 by 3. Right, let's take another example to understand this further. So one fair spinner has 3 sections marked with numbers 1 to 3. Another fair spinner has 5 sections marked from 1 to 5. Now, instead of having a coin and a dice, I have spinners here, right? So I need to think with the same way I was thinking when working the example of a dice and a coin. Okay? The only difference here is I have 3 outcomes from the first spinner and 5 outcomes from the second spinner. So normally in total, I need to have 3 times 5 possible outcomes, which is 15 outcomes, right? So the first thing they want us to draw a sample space diagram. So to draw that, I just need to take, for example, on the y-axis, on this axis, I will put all the possible outcomes for the first spinner. So this is for the first spinner. I have 1, 2, 3. And this one for the second spinner, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I will just put pluses on all the meeting points, or all the let's say the crossing points, or the crossing points between this line and this line, this line and this line. Yeah, so columns and rows. Okay, so all the crossing points, I will put them here, all the meeting points of there. So all of these are possible outcomes. So having 1, 1 is a possible outcome. 1, 2 is a possible outcome. 1, 3 is a possible outcome. Right, so this is how you need to read it. Now imagine they ask you to work out the probability of scoring two twos, right? So scoring 2 twos, I just need to see when the first spinner will give me 2, what are the possible outcomes that the second spinner will give me 2. So the only possible way of having 2 twos is 1 2 from the first spinner, one and a second 2 from the second spinner, which is this event, this particular event. So among 15 outcomes, 15 possible outcomes, I only have 1 that give you this event. So the probability of having or scoring 2 twos is equal 1 over 15, right? And you can simplify that and get the value as a decimal number. Well, it's up to you, but we will see later in the exercises what is the form that they are asking you to get your probability. Right, let's take another example. They ask you, well, we are still in the same example, but it's a different question. So they ask you to work out the probability of scoring 2 odd numbers. So you need to ask yourself, what are the odd numbers here? So since for the first spin I have 1, 2, 3, those are the 3 possible outcomes, I have 1 and 3 that are odd numbers. And from the second spinner, I have 1, 3, and 5. So I need to focus on, if I will have 1 from the first spinner, I can get 1 from the second spinner, 3 from the second spinner, 5 from the second spinner. So these 3 are possible outcomes when having 1 from the first spinner. If I have 3 from the first spinner, I can get 1 from the second spinner, 3 from the second spinner, 5 from the second spinner. So as you can see here, I have 6 possible outcomes from the total 15 outcomes that I have. So the probability of scoring 2 odd numbers is equal to 6 over 15. And I can simplify that one by dividing by 3, I think. So it will be 2 over 5. Right. Now let's see this other question. So they ask you to work out the probability of scoring a total of 5. Well, a total of 5 means that the number, you need to add the number that you got from the first spinner with the number that you got from the second spinner. So it's the sum of the two numbers that you got. Now, a very good way to see the result here, well, I know that we already have the possibility or the sample space diagram here, but a very good way to represent this particular event or this particular outcome is that I actually write the sum of the outcomes. So if I have 1 from the first spinner and 1 from the second spinner, the outcome should be 2 because I'm adding the two values. If I have 2 from the first spinner and 1 from the second spinner, 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. If I have 3 from the first spinner and 1 from the second spinner, the outcome should be 4. So the question is, I need to see what are all the possible ways to get 5. Okay, so to get 5, if I have 3 from the first spinner, I need 2 to get 5. So this is the first possible way to get 5. If I have 2 from the first spinner, I need 3 from the second spinner to get 5. If I have 1 from the first spinner, I need to get 5 I need to get 4 from the second spinner. So this is the outcome that I'm looking for. Right. So as you can see here, writing the results, writing the sum like that will be easier for you to see the results. Okay, so just an advice for you. If you have to do the sum or the difference or the multiplication, think about doing a diagram like that for you to understand it better and see the results better. So in total, I have 3 outcomes from the total possible outcomes that verify that the total is 5, right? So the probability of scoring a total of 5 is equal to 3 over 15. And if you will simplify that, it will be 1 over 5. Right, well, after all of these examples, you are ready to work on exercises. Let me know if you need more explanations, and please write what are the exercises that you want us to correct during the Zoom session. Thanks for watching. See you. Bye-bye.